Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Business Live. Tonight, we'll be exploring some immediate policy measures Ghana can take to mitigate the economic shocks from the evolving conflict as tension continues to escalate in the Middle East following joint strikes by Israel and United States against Iran. We'll be live with an economist. Also in this bulletin, some oil marketing companies commence increase in fuel prices, with Goil and Star Oil all selling petrol at 10 cedis 46 pesos per litre. Plus, Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Nyanku-Ampem rejects suggestions that the proposed reserve accumulation program is not sustainable and prone to price volatilities.
Components. We are not only depending on gold to build these reserves going forward, but you make hay while the sun shines.
We have details of these and more coming your way all in a moment. Please stay. Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kujobaka. Let's begin from the downstream petroleum sector, because we know some oil marketing companies have started increasing fuel prices at the pumps in line with projected industry data. Two of the dominant market players, Goil and Star Oil, are selling petrol at the same price of 10 cedis 46 pesos. Details in this report.
The price of petrol was projected to go up by almost 3% per litre. And it appears most of the oil marketing firms are working with that. Two of the leading oil marketing firms have all kept their prices at the same quote. A careful look at the prices also showed that Goil and Star have also priced petrol at the same price floor set by the National Petroleum Authority for the next 2 weeks. However, when it came to diesel, Star had the lower value of 11 cedis 97 pesos, whilst Goil was selling the product at 12 Ghana cedis 53 pesos. More, the oil marketing companies have told Joy Business that they'll be moving soon to increase prices at the pumps. However, they've maintained that this would be driven by the price quotes of the major oil marketing companies like Goil and Star Oil. The recent increase has been driven by rising prices of crude oil on the international market. There are also clear indications that consumers may have to brace themselves for more hikes in prices at the pumps in the coming weeks due to developments in the Middle East.
And we know Zen Petroleum has also reiterated its commitment to strengthening its retail operations in Ghana after honoring outstanding staff and dealers at the 2026 Retail Excellence Awards in Accra. Speaking to Joy Business on the sidelines of the event, founder of Zen Petroleum, William Tewia, said the gathering was primarily to recognize and reward hard-working staff whose performance continues to drive the company's growth across the country.
Petroleum has reiterated its commitment to strengthening its retail operations in Ghana as it honored outstanding staff and dealers at the 2026 Retail Excellence Awards in Accra. Speaking to Joy Business, founder of Zen Petroleum, William Tewia, said the gathering was primarily to recognize and reward hardworking staff whose performance continues to drive the company's growth across the country.
Today's awards is to recognize all the staff that we have, especially our frontline staff who are working round the clock serving our customers, through thick and thin. And we've been going for quite a number of years now, and we thought it would be right to finally recognize them for what they do and award them for their hard work.
He noted that Ghana's retail petroleum space is becoming increasingly competitive and crowded, requiring companies to focus on efficiency, service quality, and stronger dealer relationships to remain relevant.
Yeah, we think the overcrowding is definitely a challenge because it makes the regulator's job a lot more difficult. So we think that's something that needs to be looked at. In terms of uniform pricing, we think that's also very important. Otherwise, you're always open to predatory pricing. And in terms of the number of retail outlets, we have close to 3,500 retail outlets. If you look at a place like Ivory Coast, they have about 1,000 retail outlets. So we definitely have a little bit too much in Ghana. So that's something that we feel needs to be looked at.
Despite the competitive pressures, the company says its immediate focus remains firmly on the Ghanaian market. Management indicates that for now, Zen Petroleum is prioritizing consolidation and growth within the local industry rather than pursuing expansion in other countries.
We actually used to operate in Burkina Faso in terms of going outside Ghana. We're in Burkina Faso, we're in Ivory Coast, but currently we're focused only on Ghana. We don't have any expansion plans currently beyond Ghana because we still feel that we've got a long way to go yet.
William Teria further assured customers of a better and more refined experience with Zen Petroleum in the days ahead.
We sought to differentiate ourselves by being fair to our customers, being honest. Integrity is at the heart of everything we do. So, in terms of the quantity of fuel that we serve to our customers, we always make sure that it's always verified. We serve the right quantity. We believe in offering them competitive prices, but more importantly, we keep our prices uniform across our network, and that's very important for us.
The company believes sustained investment in its people and retail network will be key to maintaining its position in Ghana's evolving downstream petroleum sector.
Let's now touch on our lead story for tonight. As tension continues to escalate in the Middle East following joint strikes by Israel and United States against Iran, we will find out whether there is any immediate policy measures Ghana can take to mitigate the economic shocks from the conflict. Already, we know crude oil prices have also begun to rise sharply since last Friday amid fears of supply disruptions. And the development is expected to affect shipments of refined petroleum products as well as other goods imported into Ghana. Higher insurance premiums and freight costs could also push up the prices of goods on the local market. I want to discuss this further and understand the impact of this development on Ghana despite its remote nature. Now, let's get onto Zoom and speak with an economist, Dr. Edu Sarkodie, for more. Thank you so much, sir, for staying on to speak to us, and good to see you. Now, from what you've said and from what you've gathered so far, how will the conflict affect global oil prices, and what implications will this have on Ghana's fuel imports?
Well, good afternoon, and good afternoon to my Center for Policy Scrutiny, the staff of CPS. We know you know why we always say we should not politicize geopolitical tensions. When Russia invaded Ukraine, people were saying, why is the impact only on Ghana? Today we are talking about the impact of another geopolitical tension on the Ghanaian economy. So first is the disruption in the supply chain. For example, if you want to import crude oil or even refined oil, because of the conflict, it may take you longer days. Maybe you budgeted for 3 days, but now it's taking like 1 week. Of course, with that, first, the international crude oil price will rise. And second, your freight cost will also rise. And as a businessman, you want to pass on these costs onto the consumers. And we also know that the export price, the one we call the filling station, the fuel price at the filling station, is also determined first by the international crude oil price and also by the exchange rate, the levies and taxes of government, and also the markup of the OMC. So all these factors would account for the price that we pay at the fuel stations. And so when one variable is going up, with the hope is that the other variables could be maintained or reduced with the hope of maintaining the price at the same time. How do I mean? If the international crude oil price rises, the exchange rate could be maintained, or the city could appreciate further to shore up Ghanaians on this. Secondly, the government could adjust its taxes and levies if they so deem it right to keep the export price the same. We also remember that Ghana is practicing deregulation. Ghana is under deregulation in such that the government does not directly determine the price of fuel, but they have direct oversight over the taxes and levies. Anytime, Ghana is also an exporter of crude oil price, so when the international crude oil price rises and with a possible impact on refined export pump price, the windfall that the government would make as a result of an increment in the crude oil price, because we export crude oil, the windfall that we make, the government may substitute that for the taxes and levies they have imposed on the export price, or they can revise some of the taxes and levies downward so as to cushion Ghanaians on that stage. Secondly, they can even distribute coupons to cushion or protect the low-income earners. We know these individuals normally take trotro or taxi or Uber. For people who have their private cars, they may not be cushioned that much, but it is always important to protect those on the low-income scale. So the government could provide certain cushioning by providing coupons to trotro, taxi, Uber drivers, and so on and so forth. Whichever way they can do, they have to use the windfall, the possible windfall they will get from the crude oil, and support the low-income, those in the low-income brackets with some cushioning so that the impact is not felt that great. All right,
I'll come to you subsequently on that. But again, for you, what are the potential effects of the conflict on the Ghanaian cedi, which of course is very, very, very important? And how can the Bank of Ghana maintain currency stability in this instance?
Well, because we are import-dependent economy, the likelihood that it will raise import cost is very high. And in businessmen and women, they are profit-making people, so agents. So whenever the cost of importation rises, they would want to pass it on to the consumer, and this would, affect the exchange rate, because the same dollar, you now need more cedis to buy the same dollar, and that will increase the price. The pressure on the demand for dollar would increase the price. And so it's likely to affect the exchange rate. But I believe that the BOG has accumulated enough reserves. Currently, we are talking about some $13 billion reserves plus some 18 billion gold reserves. The essence of having reserve is to cushion you in difficult times like this. So having accumulated these reserves, in the short to medium term, I think that the BOG stands in a very good position to intervene in the market to make sure that the exchange rate does not escalate. The long-term solution, as we have always talked about, is to build a resilient economy, industrialize. We have Tema Oil Refinery here. So if the conflict is affecting refined oil prices, we should leverage the Tema Oil Refinery, to refine more oil domestically so that Ghanaians are not that affected by that. But the medium-term solution, I believe the BOG stands a very good position to intervene. The long term is to have our refinery running so that in times of like this, we are not found wanting. My schoolmate, Edoji Tamaklo, is a MPA boss. I believe he's competent enough. He started all the stakeholder engagements. I believe that he can handle this, and I believe that the government is in a position to handle this. We should not wait for things to get out of hand. The government should be proactive. As we saw during our fight against COVID-19, the government at that time was very proactive, and we scored amongst the highest on an international scale. So I believe that government of Ghana has what it takes to be proactive and cushion Ghanaians on any possible negative effects of this.
And Dr. Aduwu Sarkodie, from what you've gathered so far following this evolution of the conflict as we have it now, of what impact will this have on the broader economy, you would say, despite its remoteness?
Yes, if we so let me be positive. We are in a position to resolve this. The reserves are there, at the oil refinery are there, the capacity is there. But the possible impact, that's why I said possible, that's why I like your question, because possible impact. First, the rise in the price of crude oil, the rise in the freight cost, which will be translated into high export price, leading to high transportation cost. And the tomato seller will say that when I took a taxi today, I used to pay 5 cents, now I'm paying 7 cents, so I'm also increasing the price of my tomato. Generally speaking, inflation will rise. And when inflation rises, it unsettles the economy, macroeconomic instability will rise. BOG will be forced to intervene with the policy rate by raising the policy rate. In recent times, we have seen a decline in the policy rate, which has translated in a decline in interest rate. We don't want to see a reversal of this. But if things escalate and inflation rises, BOG will be forced to raise their policy rates, and this will translate into high lending cost or borrowing cost. And you don't want that. This will compound the cost of living in the country, because almost even the charcoal seller will end up increasing the price of charcoal because of how import dependent our economy is. And that's why we always preach that we should go back to the old school of industrializing the country, because once you have industrialized, some of these things could be averted. But hey, we have to, like I said, the government has to be proactive, especially leveraging on the windfall. Like I said, Ghana, we also export crude oil. So when there is an increment in international crude oil price, the country stands to benefit. The government can use the windfall, the difference between the budgeted amount and the actual amount, which is positive, to reduce the taxes and levies on the export price to cushion us. I think that the government can do it. They are in a position to do it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Edu Osisako-Addey. I'm glad you could make time to speak to us here on Business Live. Let's now pause for a breather. We'll be right back with more. Hello, welcome back to Business Live. Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Nyakuampim is rejecting suggestions that the proposed reserve accumulation program is not sustainable. Government has come under some scrutiny about the future of the program, seeking to increase Ghana's import cover to 15 months by 2028. But speaking with Joy Business, the Deputy Minister of Finance said the policy has been structured to deal with these shocks.
If you read the full document on the accelerated reserve accumulation policy that the minister brought to the House, currently it is gold-led because gold prices are elevated, they are high. But there are other components. We are not only depending on gold to build these reserves going forward, but you make hay while the sun shines. Since all international financial institutions, Goldman Sachs and others are predicting that gold prices are going to remain elevated over the next 3 years, it is important that we take full advantage of it. And so it is gold-led. Other avenues are there to support it. Today, gold prices are high, cocoa prices are low. Tomorrow, cocoa prices will go up. So the policy will harness resources from all these avenues to build enough reserves. And don't forget, the target is 15 months of import cover, something that Ghana has never seen.
What do you make of the news about the fund giving you a thumbs up for the work you're doing, and even to the extent that very soon the IMF could classify Ghana as a commodity-led economy in terms of having strong commodity reserves that you're dependent on to boost the economy?
For us, it is not only about what the fund is saying. Everybody is recognizing what Ghana is doing. When you go out there and you meet other countries, all the things they ask you is that, how are you doing it, Ghana? So we are happy the fund is recognizing, we are happy World Bank is recognizing, we are happy our neighboring countries, everybody, and internally we are happy that everybody, except the 38 in black today, everybody is recognizing that something great is happening.
Investor appetite for government's treasury bills remained at an all-time high as interest rates dropped further within the single-digit rate for the various papers. According to the Bank of Ghana's auction results, government once again recorded a huge oversubscription of treasury bills to the tune of 14.8 billion cedis. More in this report.
Despite a sharp drop in interest rate, investor interest for the short-term instrument remained high. According to the data from the Bank of Ghana, the yield on the 91-day bill fell by 113 basis points to 5.32%. That of the 182-day bill also declined to 6.87% from 8.18% the previous week. Similarly, the yield on the 364-day bill eased by 44 basis points to 10.20%. Meanwhile, the government accepted about 8.8 billion Ghana cedis of the bids tendered. The target for the auction was estimated at 5.80 billion Ghana cedis. The bids tendered was, however, 14.82 billion Ghana cedis. The 91-day bill was the most subscribed at 6.82 billion Ghana cedis of the bids were tendered, representing 46% of the total bids. However, bids accepted of 3.74 billion Ghana cedis. The 364-day bill saw bids of about 6.15 billion Ghana cedis tendered. The uptake was 3.53 billion Ghana cedis. For the 182-day bill, 2.82 billion Ghana cedis of the bids were tendered. The bids accepted were estimated to the tune of 1.52 billion Ghana cedis.
And you can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. There you go on that portal. Let's see what's there. OMC's comments increase in fuel prices. Goil and Star Oil sell petrol at 10 cedis 46 pesos. And we brought you that story here on Business Live. Also on that portal, you see Ghana falls 7 places in Global Mining Investment Attractiveness Report. We have more stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Thanks so much for being part of Business Live for today. I am Pius Kojobaka.